I find that if you can make an interest for yourself, the audience is interested in what you're doing. So, you have to, as an artist, you have to make sure that you're playing the music that interests you, because that way you're giving something honest to the audience. If you just say, "Oh man, I want to make the audience happy," so I know they want me to play some happy horse shit, so I'll play that. That's not it. So if you, what you're saying is difficult. You have to come up with the goods every night and try to play something different and get your emotional body that might be kind of exhausted to come up with the goods. Not an easy task. So I guess the easiest way is to be open, and the people you play with, you're just listening to them, and their inspiration is leaking into your vessel, and your inspiration's going into their vessel, and there's power in numbers. I imagine if you had a solo saxophone gig every night, you still have to do it, but you just have to dig deep. It's not easy. But if you have to depend on the audience, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that last part of my question, I was trying to fill up time while you were looking at it.
Oh, okay, all right. Says Jerry, for your latest work, Tenor Talk, would you please tell us how you were set up in the studio, booth or opening a single or dual mics? I've really enjoyed the finished sound you achieved on those recordings. Tenor Talk. Tenor Talk, Tenor Talk and Tenor of the Times, I did the same day. But the owner of Savant Records said, "Look, we don't want to put these out, this one out, and then the next one out next year. So let's put another band in between." So Tenor Talk and Tenor of the Times, I did the same way. I had a mic here and a mic here, so about this height, maybe here, and a music stand here, and I just played in between them. So you got the sound of the tenor more like you would hear it in a wider sense, as opposed to me just playing into a mic. So it was stereo, and that's how I did that recording. Then the tenor, what's it called, the tenorist, I think I played into one mic, and there was an ambient mic off to the left or the right, I forget. But yeah, it's not the miking so much as just, and I was also in an isolated room. Sometimes I prefer to be in a bigger room. You get natural reverb and natural sound, but I was in an isolated room at Peter Contremas's studio in Westwood, Massachusetts, called Pete's Basement Studio, PBS. A lot of recordings there. Yeah, and I had this recording was with 8-link with a 3 medium unfiled Rico Select, whereas the tenorist was with a 10-star link with the 3 soft unfiled Rico Select. There's a little question here. How do you think one should get a good practice routine? And my answer to that is, you plan your work and you work your plan. You have to have a plan. You just can't get up and say, "Oh, I'm going to get inspired. I'll watch this movie first, and then I'll, practice this, or I'll watch a baseball game and get inspired from this fastball that this guy threw. I'll get inspired from this orange I just ate." You got to have a routine. You have to have, and you got to pay attention to your routine and do it daily if you can. And I always find that I try to practice. I have my power moments where I feel my best, during the day. That's when I get up. From then on, it's downhill. So I like practicing in the morning. And I feel like, oh man, I did all my practice routine. I feel good now. Now I can practice more too, but at least I know I did my thing. So, and I tell people, I used to write it down. Okay, I figure out how long I'm going to practice during the day. Say I'll give you I'm going to practice 3 hours every day, or 4 hours, or 6 hours, or 10 hours, or 1 hour. Organize your practice time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, and it doesn't mean you can't change your routine. It just means you organize. You just go and doodle around for hours, and you can even leave time. Say, I'm going to doodle for half hour. I'm going to play free. I'm just going to play free rhythms or free melodies or whatever, free bop. I'm going to do that every day for half an hour. Then you used your will. You said, that's what I'm going to do. So if you even deviate from that, you can call yourself back and kind of get into it. So you have a plan, and you work that plan. And if you have a teacher, that helps. They might help you with your plan. I always find I'd have my plan, and then I'd go play a session somewhere or a gig, and I'd say, oh, God, I sounded awful. Man, I'm going to forget this plan or forget parts of it. I need to practice this, and I change my plan. That works, whatever works. And it's a lifelong thing. It's not like, oh, man, if I do this plan for a year, I'm golden. The plan keeps changing. You keep growing. It's a different plan. You keep working at it. That's what's great about this music. It's not something that stops. Yes?
Do you have any special tone exercises that you worked on or that you work on currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think of getting a tone as, I call it the no embouchure, the no embouchure. And what I mean by that is, I don't do anything weird with my mouth or, any weird stuff. I try to get the reed to vibrate. That sound is that reed vibrating. And it'll vibrate with this mouthpiece, it'll vibrate with that mouthpiece. So for me, one of the, you can go online at a Rico reed site, and I give a whole big spiel about this. Basically, I try not to bunch these chin muscles here, because that kills the reed. It gets up against the reed, and the reed just dies. And I try to keep this part of my lip, the sides right here, loose, real loose. So I blow air out the sides of the bottom just to keep them loose until then I'll still have them loose, but I won't blow air out the sides because I don't want to waste my air stream. I'll keep this loose. I don't really press down a lot. So I can even open up my top lip, even with my space, and blow air, and I can do that as well. So I'm just keeping loose and letting that reed vibrate. So if you have your tenor mouthpiece on your neck, you should be getting an E concert. On an alto, on a neck, it should be an A flat concert if you're a tenor player. If you're an alto player, it's a G sharp. I think for baritone, it's an F on the baritone and mouthpiece. What?
It's sometimes better to be sharp than hard of you.
Yeah. So, in that way, I think of this as my embouchure. I'm pumping a lot of air and just keeping that, that airstream going and getting the note and trying to play, so I'm not adjusting for registers. So I'm playing the whole saxophone with roughly the same embouchure. I'm not adjusting for low notes, not adjusting for high notes. I'm trying to think I'm going to play the whole horn like it's middle C. Of course, there are subtle adjustments that I do, but as a concept, That's what I'm thinking about.
You get pretty tired quickly after, starting to do that for the first time, since you're not using as much, there's not as much resistance and...
Yeah, I think you can get pretty... I always think, man, playing tenor is physical. You know, I practice the drums every day. And I can practice the drums 2 hours a day. I don't even notice it. You know, I practice the tenor for an hour or 3 hours or 4 hours. Man, I feel it. It's energy. Yeah. You're pumping out energy. Yes.
Earlier today, on a discussion that we had, you had mentioned how at one point you were doing, 300 flights a year because of how busy your schedule is.
Yeah.
Back to when you're talking about your practice routine, how are you able, or how do you find that it's really difficult to stick to that routine when you have a busy performance and teaching schedule? And how do you, at this stage in the game, how do you balance the time you devote to yourself on your horn versus what you devote to, say, your students or, having to deal with your touring schedule?
Well, when I was doing 300 flights a year, I did that for 6 years. And then, I was on the road for 200 days a year. And sometimes to get to one place, it would take 3 flights.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I might have taken 3 flights. So that's how it comes up to that. It's...
But still, busy schedule.
But the reason I'm saying this is because I don't need a saxophone to practice. I practice mentally all the time. As a matter of fact, I get a lot done when I practice without a saxophone, or I write without instruments. It's all here and here. And I sit there and I shut my eyes and I surround myself with this invisible light that you can't see, but you see it internally. And I imagine myself surrounded with good vibes. And I see myself having joy playing music and fun. I put a smile on my face internally. And then I might practice my long tones. I'll just sit there and I'll try to hear my sound. How wide is it? How deep is it? How bright is it? How much does it project? What color is it? What color is this note? What color is that note? And I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes doing that, and then I practice the same exact things I would practice if I were practicing at my home in my practice room with my instrument. I practice the same things in a very formal way. So even though I was on flight from point A to point B, going from Atlanta to LA, I'm practicing my horn, and the same place I made a mistake in my head was the same place I'd make a mistake on the horn, and I'd go through it real slow in my head. And I'd even see myself learning things mentally. For example, I'd play B flat, side B flat to B, side B flat to B, and say, oh man, that's hard. Wait a minute, that's not hard, because in my mind I can jump from here to the moon and back in a split second. So I would visualize it as being easy. This is easy, and I'd see my fingers doing this, and I'd see my fingers doing this and that and playing this and that, and I'd tell myself, this is easy. I can do this. And when I learn tunes, I do the same thing. I just sit there and hear the melody, phrase the melody, hear my articulation, the sound I want, and I play on the tune, do the same thing. It's the same thing, yes.
You just mentioned articulation. I think you're one of the primary examples of today's saxophonists, jazz saxophonists, that uses a variety of articulation. And could you comment on that?
First of all, I love people who articulate. You know, when somebody calls you up on the phone, I think it's not only their voice that you hear, that you recognize one word, but you really recognize their articulation. You know, they can say 3 words. You hear Wayne Shorter play one note. You hear Sonny Stitt play one note or two notes. You hear Bird or Sonny Rollins or Joe Henderson or Cannonball. Just three notes or one note. And you say, yeah, okay, yeah. But all the guys, they have their articulations. They say if you get an orchestra and you record all the instruments in the orchestra, but you cut off the articulation, clip it off, and you play that instrument, you can't tell. It's hard to distinguish what instrument you're listening to. So when your friend calls up and they say a few things, it's not only their voice, it's their articulation. So you have to listen to yourself articulate, and you have to listen to yourself the way you end notes. Ending notes can be a story. Just the way you end a note. It's not it's not that. You do something with a note. You shape it. That's the deal. So it's the articulations. It's the way you end the notes. That's what makes you sound different than other people. And everybody has a sound. If you breathe, you're valid. And you listen to yourself play, and you listen to the way you speak and how you go about it and just what you like. I think that people come upon their sound or their style in three ways. And I'm excluding who your mother and father were, what you ate your whole life, and how much your brother and sister beat you up as a kid, or I'm taking all those facts and throwing them out. So it's who you listen to. And if you had to say, well, how do you learn how to play jazz? Here's my first 10 answers on the list. Listen, 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 listen. But after listening, listen what you practice. What could be bigger than that? Who you listen to, what you practice, and who you play with. What else is there? So you have to be discriminating. You can't practice everything. There are thousands of books out there, and thousands of them are great. So you can't practice out of all of them, half of them might be not that good. A third of them are really good, and some of them are okay, You have to pick and choose. You have to pick and choose who you like. People ask me, well, who should I transcribe? And I say, who do you like? Who turns you on? Who's your passion? I'm not going to tell so-and-so, oh, you should go out with this girl. So what if he doesn't like her, or she doesn't like him? That's what your passion is. How do you get along? So when you like something, there's a reason you like it. It's kind of jiving, or there's something there that goes with your personality or your soul or whatever. So check it out.